Good morning, Mr. William Winter.
Hello, Mark. Welcome again. We're back on the road with our podcast. And did I see you sitting in the seats at the Geelong Cats on Saturday night?
Yes, the first game of the year with the new stand, and I thought it was pretty good, actually.
It was really impressive, and that new stand is going to make such a difference.
The bit that threw me was the cheer squad being at a different end. That was the only bit that threw me, but I liked the fact there was a big opposing cheer squad there. I think that was good.
That's right. Anyway, let's move on. Football can be boring to some people, but not to us.
So who's today's guest, Bill?
Well, today we're delighted to welcome Jen Conley. Jen is the CEO of the Geelong Manufacturing Council. And the Geelong Manufacturing Council plays an extremely important part in in Geelong and the surrounding area, more probably in the G21 region, in fact. And as everybody knows who has been connected to Geelong, we've been through this trough, up and down roller coaster road, and Jen's based out here at Deakin University, and of course there's no dip in the trough anymore. We're on top of the trough. So welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks, Mark.
Pleasure.
Great to be here.
So, Jen, let's, as we do with all our interviews, we start at the beginning. Where was primary school?
I love that. Tucker Road Primary School in Melbourne, in East Bentley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I moved schools in grade 5. Went to South Oakley, but I don't think it's there anymore. I think they closed that school down.
Yeah, that's the sad part, isn't it? You become an orphan because your school moves, and then that led to high school.
Yes,
Yep.
Huntingdale High School. So that school's not there either, by the way. But out in the Huntingdale area where there's a lot of manufacturing, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
There sure is, and I used to hang around parts of that part of the world, but that and going out to South Dandenong, of course, that's the really big part of Melbourne that not a lot of people realise how big manufacturing is out there. Yeah.
No, it is. It's major, but honestly, Geelong is bigger. We're probably 3 times the size in terms of our exports and GDP, regional GDP.
Yeah.
So while you were at high school, what was your ambition? What did you think you'd do when you finished?
To be a writer and a journalist.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So communicator. And when you're at school, you want to make a difference. There was that sort of,
Yep.
I believed I could do that best by working in journalism, media.
Oh, yeah.
And did you do anything around journalism while you were at school or leaving
Yeah,
school?
I did actually. I wrote for the local papers a bit, just here and there. Yeah. And local stories, nothing substantial, but I did.
And then leaving school, did you uni or not, or?
I went straight into, more or less straight into journalism. So we didn't go to uni back then to be journalists.
So you would have been a cadet.
A cadet.
Cadet.
I was indeed.
That's right.
But there was a bit of a gap because I didn't get the cadetship I wanted, and I ended up doing a road trip around Australia.
Well, that was a better education, I'm sure. Right.
But did you use your journalism skills while you were
Travelling?
Did you?
Not really. Worked in Perth in kind of odd jobs, working in sort of a fruit and veg shop, and I actually worked in a manufacturing place temporarily.
So what was your first ever job? Real job that you actually got a pay packet for?
First ever job that I got a pay packet for was working in a toy shop in Oakley. So we talked about this actually at the board level because we were getting to know each other here at the GMC, and the new chair decided to, probe everybody on their background. So, worked at a toy shop and, sold toys as a school holiday job, basically, yeah.
Yeah, my first job, I don't think we've ever discussed this, was working in the Toorak post office as a student. And we used to sit in the post box. It was on the main street, and people would come along and put the letters in. We used to sit in the letterbox, and as they put the letters in, we'd snatch it out of their hands and watch the reaction. That's what you did in school jobs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You're evil.
Yeah,
So
evil.
you travel around Australia. That gave you a taste for came back.
Came back, and then I got into RMIT journalism studies, which at that time was reserved for people with cadetships, but they had 2 spots for people who didn't, and I got into one of those, and then in that year got a cadetship at the Colac Herald down here in the not far from Geelong.
Which is still going.
Yes. Different now, but then it was a broadsheet. It was 3 times a week. It was interesting. It was working in the country. I hadn't done that before. So
you relocated?
I relocated for the 2.5 years before going to the, as everybody did in those days and probably still do actually, went to Europe and the UK and got jobs actually over there while I was travelling in the Daily Mail and Daily Telegraph. Preferred the Daily Telegraph a bit, I got to say. The Daily Mail was one of those sort of terrible tabloids.
The Daily Rumour File.
Oh,
is that what it is?
And in those days, they would have had the page 3 girl and all that sort of stuff.
That was the Sun, wasn't it?
I think the Sun had that.
Was the Sun.
Yeah, the Sun was hilarious as well.
That's right. So from those days now, Jen, to where you are today with the Geelong Manufacturing Council, as I read through on your history, you've actually had a really diverse range of roles in different areas. And I'll go back to the first one I picked up on. You were with the American Chamber of Commerce in Singapore.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, there's a big gap there because between the travels around, Europe and getting to AmCham, I worked at The Age for about 10 years as a journalist and feature writer, and did some edited the travel pages, and then mainly in features was writing kind of economic stories and business stories. And then moved to Canberra and had children, moved to Canberra, was working in various things up there, AusAid and a few other. And then I went to uni, by the way, and did do a degree, an arts degree. So there's kind of a lot going on. Yeah. And then we and my now ex-husband moved to Singapore and for his role, and the children went into school and whatnot. And I wanted to do some communications work. And, at that time it was this job came up with the AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, and it was a real learning experience about the opportunities that businesses kind of leverage and how you advocate on behalf of business with government, and what their challenges were, and really loved that. We did a lot around the free trade agreement between Singapore and the US, and some corporate social responsibility programs and lots of business activities. So I became an advocate for business at that point.
Good. Well, Mark, that takes us to our first tipping point, correct? In that your husband went to Singapore because of a job, and you obviously went along, but it put you in a different direction because you've been with associations. And advocating for things like Asia Link and all the rest of it ever since. Yep. So that trip to Singapore really changed direction.
Direction for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much manufacturing
in Singapore.
Yeah.
Well, with the AmCham was more around large multinational companies that were supplying probably. But yeah, Singapore has a bit of manufacturing, but it was the big companies that we kind of worked with, but they had 1,500 members, so there was a lot of variety amongst the membership.
Big organisation.
Yeah.
So when did you leave Singapore?
In 2004.
Yep.
And we came back to Melbourne. I'm just trying to remember all that. and then went to the US. In between, so I was working at AsiaLink, as you've noted, Bill. Thank you for looking up my CV. Which
tell us about AsiaLink. What was
AsiaLink is a. Do you know about AsiaLink?
No.
It's an organisation based at the University of Melbourne, and it is an association of kind of, an advocacy group that tries to encourage relations between Australia and Asia. So around education, around the arts and business. They're the three kind of areas. And when I was there, we did a big event in Canberra, which was kind of a, awareness raising around the challenges between Australia and Asia and what we kind of needed to do to bring about better cultural understanding and so on.
I know a bit about AsiaLink, and they've certainly been very active. In what they've been. I don't know what it's like today, but sorry, we interrupted you. You went to the States?
Yeah, we went to the States again for my spouse. I was the travelling spouse at that time. We were working in LA, Los Angeles, and
That's the old LA.
I loved Los Angeles.
The old LA.
The old LA.
Well, I don't. Some of them. I've had many trips there, and it certainly parts of it have changed not for the better, but other parts. And I've got friends over there, and been down, particularly around Orange County, where it's there's a lot of activity.
Yeah, it's a great city.
And were you working there? Were you doing anything there?
Me personally, I was the partner, so working hard, but honestly not paid.
Yeah, working much harder. So
there was a lot going on.
And then you obviously came back to Oz.
Yeah, moved back to Australia, and that was 2008, I think. Yeah. Went back to AsiaLink, did some kind of consulting with Dow Chemical, subsequently through a consulting company called Dragoman Global, fabulous company. And that was when we started the kind of, the kind of group that worked around, we built a sort of network of people interested in advancing manufacturing in Australia. And because of my interest in business and my interest in small and medium-sized enterprises in Australia and my kind of probably patriotism, if you like, trying to grow Australia's capabilities and our opportunities, I just loved that program. It was very much about raising awareness, a sort of thought leadership activity, which, we brought in all the big companies and some of the smaller and medium-sized companies in Australia that are really capable in manufacturing, and more or less gave them the bullets, if you like, and they fired them so they could talk about what was important for Australia to build our advanced manufacturing sector.
Yeah. And I know you've had a couple of other roles around Geelong in advanced fibre and Skilling the Bay, etc. But what brought you to the Geelong Manufacturing Council?
So I had moved down the coast and had been working with the Advanced Fibre Cluster for 2 years, which was a really great role, absolutely amazing group of companies. And GMC job opportunity came up, and I knew Lynn George from obviously she's Ostend. You know Lynn?
Yep.
Have you? Yeah.
We haven't interviewed Lynn.
You haven't interviewed Lynn?
No, Mark was on the chamber board.
With Lynn.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
So, it was kind of, I wasn't initially going to go for the job, honestly, but I just thought it was needed and put my hand up.
Another opportunity.
Yeah.
So Jen, given your background and where you've been and what you've seen, what change have you seen in manufacturing? Where is it? It's gone from Geelong's traditionally been refrigerators and carpet and cars. Where's it? And we all know about carbon fibre, But what changes have you seen?
Yeah, so probably close understanding of manufacturing really only since about 2011 in Australia. The big issue has been the cost of energy. So I've seen the cost of energy go through the roof. And the energy transition is adding cost, if you like, because it's a major technological change. So you get that pressure on manufacturers who are providing really enduring jobs, safe workplaces, incredible opportunities for upskilling people, their communities. And so that's been pressure on manufacturing, and it continues today. Initially, probably in the early 2000s, it was, competition from overseas, cheaper labour countries where probably they don't have the same safety and workplace relations laws, so people aren't treated the same. And, Australia tried to compete for a long time in the mass production, didn't work, so that went offshore. What's occurring is a bit of a dip initially, as you pointed out earlier. Major companies left who probably found the factors of production not working for them because they're global and their focus is on their potentially their home country, their headquartered country, but they were looking to cut their costs, and they decided once the subsidies left, like in the case of cars, they were moving offshore, leaving Australia. And the issue, obviously, car manufacturing brought a lot of skill and huge engineering capability to this region. So what I've seen after that really quite a big shock, I've seen the gradual kind of recovery, and in a sense a recovery that is without that support. It's really at the winds of global kind of competition, the cold hard winds of global competition, as we sometimes say, and that tells you that we're very resilient, that manufacturing in this part of the world is, and everywhere actually in a lot of countries, but particularly in this region, is really capable and resilient, and it will continue to recover, because people find it interesting, and it's actually creative. It's the jobs are there. We know there's a lot of skills shortages, and we're looking for people all the time, talent particularly, and unfortunately some of them go to other sectors because they look a bit sexier, and we're always trying to attract talent because that's what's necessary to grow the sector. So it's about people.
So what's Geelong's competitive advantage in the manufacturing sense?
We have really great people.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and we've got the infrastructure. We do have industrial land zones. We have the port. We have proximity to Melbourne, the airport, roads and infrastructure. So that's all good. And Deakin University is really key. I think we've got this really great research facility that connects with manufacturing. So you get that really strong relationship between technology and commercialisation of technology, which is key.
Jen, how many members in the Manufacturing Council?
We have about 70.
Yeah, and give a general description. I guess there would be a real mixed bag, I suppose, to use that expression.
Yeah, we've got a real variety. So there's no one kind of area of manufacturing that is standing out. The Advanced Fibre Cluster is that group of companies that works around some of those specialised technologies for carbon fibre. Yep. And we've got a lot of steel fabricators, several, and that's come out of that engineering kind of history and legacy. And the advanced fibres has come out of the legacy of wool, really, around textiles and production there.
What do you see in Geelong manufacturing in the small business sector? Because I know we've got the big, what I call the big local ones, the Hanlons and Ostend, all those bigger things. But Geelong has 22,000 businesses, as they say. Over 95% are SMEs, and a lot of those would be small manufacturing entities. So how important do you think that segment is to the overall economy?
Yeah, well, it's significant, obviously. I think Geelong reflects Australia. Yeah. We aren't really that different in those percentages you just described. Australia's very predominantly small and medium-sized enterprises, and that's been one of our weaknesses, but it's also a strength because we have those people who are quite agile and can respond to a customer's needs really quickly. But the weakness is that we don't have the scale in some of those companies that will sustain continuity over time, and especially if companies don't have that succession plan with their families growing older and people not as interested and so forth. You've got to grow, you need scale, you need some professional kind of outside input to develop your company. So small and medium-sized enterprises need special treatment, really.
Yeah, I'll give you an interesting fact. And most of these businesses, even the large ones, started as small businesses.
Correct.
Family businesses, and less than 12% of family businesses make it to the third generation. So what you just said about succession is really, really important. I just want to quickly change tact. Training, and you've got a young women in engineering focus. Can you give us a bit of information about that?
Yes, we have several programs for women in manufacturing. So they're not just engineers, it's anyone really working in manufacturing, but obviously there's a real need for engineers. So a lot of the companies are working with us to attract women to the sector because A, the pay is really great, and B, we need more people working in, we need to access 50% of the population that we're not accessing currently. So we have a mentoring program. We run schools engagement. So we go around to year 9 and 10 students, learn more about manufacturing, what the opportunities are for not only women, but we take a specialist girls group around. And we've been fortunate enough to get a grant from the federal government to expand that into Ballarat and Bendigo, back to Colac, and then further expand our programs in Geelong. So we're really, really excited about that.
So that's interesting then, because you're the Geelong Manufacturing Council, but you obviously go broader then, because there wouldn't be something equivalent in Bendigo or Ballarat or Warrnambool, I would assume, is there?
Not exactly, but we're not expanding into those towns, if that makes sense. Yeah. We're just offering these programs into those towns which are, needing them.
Absolutely.
And
you've got the infrastructure, so it's logical that you can expand it into those areas.
Yeah.
Just getting away from the engineering side of things, what do you do outside of work? What are your hobbies?
Outside of work?
Yes.
Well, I have 3 grown-up children, and
hobbies or
hobbies? Very much, I think. When they grow up, they're great company. And I have 2 dogs and my partner Tom, and we walk the beaches of the surf coast.
You live on the surf coast.
Yeah, I do. I live at Moggs Creek.
Yeah, well, you've got plenty of beach down there.
I'm a neighbour of one of your...
Dangerfield.
Yeah.
One of the footballers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
Hi, Patrick.
But what a great spot to wake up in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And just have that beach.
It is
at all
very
times
cool.
of the year.
Yeah, you have to pinch yourself. I do anyway every day.
Very good. So why should people join Geelong Manufacturing Council? So if I'm in a manufacturing business, what should I come and see you and join?
Well, you can leverage the community that I described before. I think if you're small particularly, you get a lot of value from that leverage. We support companies with, personal advocacy if they need it, but general advocacy as well. We don't necessarily talk a lot about the advocacy because it's often just chatting with various influencers in the policy area. But you'll also get networking, which some people, engineers are notoriously bad networkers, sorry engineers, but they tend to have they're not as interested. They think it doesn't necessarily provide that much value, but you get a network of people, like-minded people who are all doing and focusing on some of the challenges you have, so they can share their knowledge with you and you can possibly share yours with them. So our 3 pillars are knowledge sharing, networking and advocacy. And in the knowledge sharing area, we also offer training. So we do skills development for emerging leaders as well as senior leaders, and there's the regular events that share people's knowledge amongst the group. So we have members talking to members often, and sometimes we bring in guest speakers. We've got the Technology and Innovation Summit coming up in a month's time. Big plug for that. Please register.
Which I'm going to, but I will be late, I'll tell you now.
Okay.
Because we're on the Business Awards. That's our first meeting of the Business Awards.
So what's the date for that?
The 18th of April, Thursday, April 18.
Being held where?
At GMHBA Stadium. And it's an all-day seminar, basically, with speakers. We've got a couple of really high-profile innovation leaders talking and sharing their understanding, also manufacturing success stories, people talking about implementing very simple solutions for, upgrading your IoT, which is Internet of Things, embedding some digitalisation in your processes so that you can just improve processes and change even safety outcomes. There's some interesting speakers. So,
and tickets available where?
Online. Go to our technologyandinnovationsummit.com.au.
Separate website.
And you can get them through our website as well. Just click through to the site and buy your tickets.
So people reaching out will go to the Geelong Manufacturing Council website?
Yes, and the City of Greater Geelong has very fortunately come in as a platinum sponsor. So you can get tickets if you're in the city's offices. They've got a QR code in their
cool. Okay.
big entranceway.
Yep.
Or you can call me, contact us, anything we can help you with.
Fantastic, Jen.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly go back to your thing about networking. As you know, I'm currently doing some consulting to a company in Geelong that's got 22 staff and fit within your remit. And one of the first things I did was join the Geelong Manufacturing Council, because when I asked the question about business, well, what are you doing about networking? Who else do you know in the industry? And all that, I just got blank stares. Now, and I'll take up on what you said, is that I want to leverage that now to enable people to get to know what's going on in the broader industry.
No, fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
and members, just to take up that point, can send anyone from within their staff to any of our activities. So, we encourage our sort of CEOs and their various kind of alternate members to share the invites amongst the staff, because you get lots of benefits when you come along.
Brilliant, Jen. Thank you. It's been really interesting chatting to you, learning more about Geelong Manufacturing Council. And my understanding is Geelong Manufacturing Council was part of the Geelong Chamber of Commerce many, many years ago and split away. So
is that true?
But way back.
Okay.
I'm talking in, I think, the 1920s or 40s or something. So
there are a number of organisations over the years since Geelong was founded. And I know that the Chamber of Manufacturers was one of the original founding organisations. So I don't think it was the Chamber of Commerce and Manufacturers, but there was a Chamber of Manufacturers.
It was something.
It was probably because of the chamber word.
Yeah.
But that morphed into another organisation which was national, and there was a Geelong kind of branch. And then over time, that morphed into AI Group. And at that point, 26 years ago, the Geelong members said, we want our own council that represents manufacturing for Geelong. And so that's when the GMC was formed.
It's a really important organisation because manufacturing is still vital to Geelong's future and success. So well done. Great.
Well, Jen, it's been a pleasure to come and interview you today. And I'm sure we'll see more of each other in the future. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill, and thank you, Mark. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.